Good evening from Vietnam. Good afternoon to you, Keith. Thanks a lot for spending your afternoon to join our insight sharing and share your stories to our global audience and on behalf of the listeners around the world. Thank you.
Very welcome. Thanks for having me on the program, huh?
Have you been to Singapore before? You've been to Australia, Hong Kong, but yet been to Vietnam. So the next time you put it on, a travel plan, maybe Vietnam is a good destination. You have new friends here, okay?
It's definitely on there. I think I mentioned to you in the sort of preamble that when I'm scrolling through my Instagram and etc., and I see a beautiful picture of an exotic location, often it ends up being an island off Vietnam or Vietnam itself. So it's a great pleasure. So yeah, I'm really excited about the prospect of visiting one day.
Me too, me too. I'm looking forward to it. And Keith, in our culture, it's very honor for our audience if we can have you to introduce a little bit about you and the works that you are doing. Could you please do that for us?
Yeah, of course. I've called myself Sales Marvel. That's the name of my company. So thank you for having me on the program. And the name kind of implies it's around about sales and how to get my customers selling more stuff, whatever it is they sell, whether it's services or products or whatever it happens to be. The Marvel bit is not because I like Black Widow or Spider-Man or anything like that, and they're fantastic. But when I was in the city of London selling technology to investment banks, I was known as Mr. Marvelous because I'm quite an upbeat and outgoing kind of, happy, if you like. And so Sales Marvel connected, but that was before I found out about search engine optimization and how hard it was going to be for me to get up on the first page of Google. But anyway, I'm there now after a few short years, and so I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So now I know where the Marvel comes from. So Mr.
Yes.
Marvelous, right?
Mr. Marvelous.
What did you do that make them call you Mr. Marvelous?
Well, when I first got started in sales, it was a recession in London and lots of Europe at the time, and there was a lot of gloom and despondency around, and I just thought, happiness is a state of mind. There could be all kinds of problems going on at home or on the journey into town, but actually, I think if you're a happy person in your heart, you have a responsibility to spread that around a little bit more. So I try very much to be not crazy, but I try very much to have a happy disposition, make people smile like you do, huh? I think that's if you have that gift, I believe I do, you have a responsibility to share it.
Wow. Wow. And I wish that we have so many people out there in the world have that kind of gift. So imagine if how the world gonna be if so many people can spread happiness around, right?
That would be an awesome thing, wouldn't it?
My friend, I need you to move away from the camera a little bit because it's keep blurring your face at the moment. So
just one
yeah,
second.
yeah.
Let me switch my camera off and then on again, see if it'll reset.
Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful now. I can see you clear now. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
pointing that out.
Yes. So, there's a lot of people in this planet Earth don't know about selling, want to become a good seller, and want to become a noble seller also. All right. So that's why I connect with you and say, okay, Mr. Sales Marvel, let's come in and share your stories. And the conversation we are having today is all about you and allow us to travel time together first to figure out the journey that takes you to what you are doing today. Okay.
Goodness. Okay.
Okay, so when I was a little, I always wanted to become an astronaut. Travel in different planets seems to be very cool for me, but life didn't give me any chance to do anything, close to what I wanted to do. So I wonder, when you was a little boy, Keith, what was your dream about your future self, though?
Oh, that's really interesting. It certainly wasn't to be a salesperson. I didn't even know what a salesperson was. But I do recall when I was about 7 years old in primary school, we were asked to enact to see if people could guess what we wanted to be by the way we acted. And I sat in my little chair next to my desk, just like you and your viewers and listeners are right now, and I leaned back a little bit in my chair, and and lots of people got it, but I wanted to be an airline pilot, and I was taking off and landing. So I thought that was really glamorous. Concorde was flying at the time, which was just the epitome of grace and beauty for me. And so, yeah, I wanted to be an airline pilot when I was young.
So from airline pilot to what you're doing now, there's a huge difference. All right. So
Yeah, that's
you need to explain to us how the journey takes place from that airline pilot dream to becoming a person, training people to become sales professional, please.
yes. So at age 7, your personality or character is more or less formed. There's plenty of scientific research that confirms that. But of course, what happens between primary school age and leaving school is lots and lots of different things. So, excuse me. So I became very interested in mathematics and in physics. And I also became a cadet. I don't know if you have cadet, but it was for it called the Air Training Corps. So as a teenager, you could join an organisation that would be affiliated to the Royal Air Force. We have the same with the Army and the Navy as well. And I became very interested in flight, and it was sort of unconsciously taking me closer to perhaps achieving my dream of becoming a pilot. Um, uh, and they stopped recruiting. I don't know what the reasons were at the time, but when I left school, I just couldn't get the right timing between me leaving school and needing a job.
Mm.
And the Royal Air Force actually recruiting people to train them to be pilots. So it wasn't meant to be. And I joined a telecoms company, BT as it's known, which is the national carrier here in the United Kingdom, and became an engineer. And I became an apprentice engineer. So what happens with an apprenticeship is that you tend to go around all the different departments from you could be laying a cable under the ground to connect a building up to the telephone network. This is back in 1982, by the way, so a long time ago. So no such thing as a mobile phone, no such thing as social media or anything like that, but business still needs to talk to each other. And so I went around all those different departments, and at the end of my second year, and I can remember it, just like I'm sat talking to you now, huh? My boss said to me, he said, Keith, I just need to have a quick word with you. And I said, okay. His name was Bill. Bill, how can I, what's wrong? What have I done wrong? He said, well, you haven't actually done anything wrong. He said, but I can tell you now that you are much better with people than you are with hardware. With technology. And that was a very diplomatic, a very polite way of saying he's going to move me to a different department, and that was going to be what they called customer support group, which is a very early definition of sales. In sales, we're always helping customers. That's the idea, and so that's what they did. They moved me into customer support group, and that's where my life began in sales.
Wow.
Just like that. So it was not an intentional move. It was one of those, divinely inspired moments, I guess you could say.
So it's around 1982 you joined that organization, and 1994 you moved into in the sales position. It's 40 years already in the professions, though.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Did you ask Bill why did he decided to move you into a new department? Because if you're good at people, you can join, human resource department. Back then, I think it's called personnel department, right? Yeah. Or you can move to any other departments. But then he decided to move you to the customer support that paved you the way into the sales profession for the past 40 years. Did you ask him why?
I never did. I think because I'm a beta personality, and I just wasn't nearly as clearly. I was only 20 years old. It just wasn't the developed character or assertive character that you see or hear before you today. This is 40 years of battle scars and all of that. So I just kind of said, okay, well, all right, that's what's happening. There's very little I can do about it. So I'll just kind of go with it. I started, I loved it. I love working with people. He was absolutely right. So Bill, I didn't even know if he's still around, but thanks, Bill, if you are, or someone is. It was one of probably 5 things in my career that I can recount on one hand that was just a fantastic thing to have happened.
Wow. So Bill was one of the 5. So
yes.
I suppose that my audience will be able to hear another 4, amazing things. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So normally, if you move from the engineering department onto, engineers seems to be the department back then is in the back end where you don't integrate with a lot of front end and talk to a lot of people, and then Bill moved you to the front end and then talk to customers and starting to sell the product. So it might create a lot of worrisome for you, right? But you say that you moved and you loved it. So I want to bring you into that moment, okay? When you first sat down on the chair and pick up the phone and do the sales works, and then you said that you loved it. How did you feel back then?
Well, you see, it was very, very different back then. So it was the last year of my apprenticeship, so I was taking incoming calls. The world of sales worked very differently then. And so if I try and put a modern day sort of lens on what was going on at the time. So I sat at a desk, very simple, clearly no video, but the telephone would ring, I would answer it, and generally it would be a customer that was reporting a fault. It would be a business customer reporting a fault. Our telephones are down, they're not working, or it's a bit noisy, something like that. And it would I would have to interact with them, ask them questions to find out exactly what the fault was, and try to narrow down what the issue might be. Is it in the same building as the person making the phone call is in, or is it likely to be under the ground somewhere? Just narrow it down a little bit. What we would now know as first line help line. line support. But also there was the opportunity, where sales came into it, is could I get that customer in a place where they wanted to buy an upgrade in their support contract, or buy a new phone system because the old one's worn out, or something like that. And that's where the sales conversation kind of came in, and you had to interact, because there was no WhatsApp or messaging or anything like that at the time. You had to interact with people. So I keep telling my children to do the same thing, these days, because they Gen Z, or Generation Z as we call them in the United Kingdom, somehow prefer messaging. If I can just relate it, that's the important thing about sales and selling. It's not your communication preference that counts. It's your customers, or your potential customers' communication preference which counts. And your skill as a salesperson is about figuring out how do they want to interact with you and your brand, and making it easy for them to do so, because that's how people buy. People buy when you make it easy for them.
Yeah. And
yes. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Going back to the 1984, I guess we're in, and as you say, 40 years ago, that's how that world kind of worked. You know, I said to you that there was probably 5 big moments in one's career. But so the first one was Bill talking to me about people. The second one was quite soon after that as well, and that was in 1988, when I grew up on the south coast of England. In the nearest city was Portsmouth, which is a very famous naval harbour, famous around the world. Many of your listeners will have heard of Portsmouth. And there was a workers' strike going on in communications in 1988. And they needed engineers in London. And my boss said to me, I was single. My boss said to me, I don't suppose you'd like to go to London to help them. And I said, yeah, okay. I was thinking it would be for an afternoon, because they're a couple of people short or something like that. Anyway, this is on a Thursday, and he said, no, it's full time, and I need you there Monday morning. And so literally in 72 hours, I left home. I was still living with my parents at the time, and they put me up in a hotel for 2 weeks in London. I'd never travelled abroad before, never. And I've been to London once, but I had to go and start living in London and working, and that was a transformative moment in my career. And as I look back on it, it was one of those 5 amazing things that happened along the way.
Tell us, why was it a transformative moment?
Because I think it was a number of things that were going on in the world at that time. 1988 was certainly in the city of London, which everyone now knows is one of the capital markets locations in the world. The 3 top ones being between New York, London, probably Tokyo. No offense to the Vietnamese Stock Exchange, but in terms of the amount of capital raised, probably those 3 locations. So London is automatically a place of interest. There was the what's called the liberalisation of telecoms, which is one of the industries, as well as financial services, since the 1980s, which has absolutely exploded around the world. And VTEL being a case in point in your own part of the world, huh? So BT all of a sudden had lots of competitors, such as Mercury, and banks were trying to globalize. All of those things came together in one, almost like the creation of a new universe, if you like. I think there was a new business universe being created in some sense, and I was very lucky, completely not by design, completely serendipitous, that I was thrown straight in at the deep end, if you like, and I absolutely loved it. You could sink or swim, and I was very fortunate that I was able to swim.
Wow. Normally, if I was a boy from a man from a small city, go to the big city, and London, it was like you say, is always the biggest, one of the biggest city in around the world, right? With a lot of, uh, a lot of activities back there. Normally a normal person like me will get scared, right?
Right,
But
yeah.
you got excited and you got immersed into that transformative one. And I believe that there's a lot of people we need to have to understand that aha movement, because there's a lot of aha movements in their life, but they let it passes by, right? So
Yeah.
so tell us, in your head, how did you feel and absorb those strange things into your head though?
Well, it's really difficult to articulate that, but you're right. When I got to Waterloo railway station, which is your sort of entry point on the railway system into London, and there would just be masses and masses and masses of people going here, there, and everywhere to their destinations. I'd never been on the London Underground before, and if I'm honest, I don't want to go on there again now, because I'm just not big with lots of crowds or anything like that. But anyway, so it was just what madness in a positive way. It was just exciting and busy, and business was being done. And going back to my childhood, where we were not necessarily poor, but there wasn't much money around, and I had always aspired, dreamt of owning my own home, or going on nice holidays, or starting a family, and all of those ambition type things. And all of a sudden I was plunged into this world of immense wealth, where people were chauffeured to work in Bentley motor cars and Mercedes Benzes and stuff. It was a world that I wanted to be a part of, and that was, and that hence, and I heard somewhere along the line that the difference between fear and excitement is a smile.
Wow.
So I had that brought a smile to my face, so I think I was more excited about that opportunity, even though I knew no one in London. But I was determined to find a way to make it work.
So how is that new journey evolve after that? After that 2 weeks, stay in the hotel, get
Yeah.
adapted in the new city, and then how did you accelerate in your sales career?
So well, first of all, I stayed with BT for a couple of years after that. So, but once I found my way around the market, how London was working, etc., I got hired by a very small company. There was only about 20 people in the company. So I got from a company with probably 100,000 employees to 20 people selling telephone systems. And that was the more traditional SDR or telesales environment. So it was very hard on the phones, no incoming calls. It was all picking up the phone, smile when you dial, all of those kind of things. And so I don't know what movies your viewers tend to think of when they think about telephone sales, but you know, The Pursuit of Happiness,
Yes, yes. I
if you
was
know the one
thinking
with
about that beautiful movie. Yes.
that's probably the closest into it in terms of authenticity, if you like. Luckily, I had a home to go to, whereas Will Smith is effectively sleeping rough with a little boy. But anyway, so but that was it. It was relentless on the phone. I'd had no training other than perhaps one or two people around me that had been there a few months longer that, oh yeah, try this, try that. So you might call that coaching these days or mentoring, but there were no formal sales training programs. And this isn't one of the five, but one particular incident, if I can just talk about this, is that they had a competition. They had a competition for the person that does, I think it was £30,000 gross profit in the next quarter, gets a free holiday to Florida. And I'd never been abroad before. And I wrote down my goal on a sheet of A4, and I found a photo of Florida in a magazine. I cut it out and I put it on now we would call that a storyboard probably, or a visualization board these days, but I put it up there so that every time I was on the phone, if I encountered an objection, or if I was having a difficult call, or just didn't feel very excited at the time, I would be able to look at that photo of Florida, keep my goal right in front of me, and that would inspire me, so that I would end up having a really good day. So that call may not have gone as well as I wanted, but I would still end up. Anyway, fast forward a quarter, and I just missed. I didn't actually make it. I just missed. And one of the other guys, John, did make it. He got the holiday. But at the quarterly sales meeting, they awarded John his his gift of Florida, and that's right and proper. He won it. But they also said, and this wasn't sort of advertised, that actually we want to recognise Keith Rozelle as the hardest working salesperson in the company. And that was, it wasn't advertised as a second prize or anything like that, but they wanted to recognise the example, I suppose, that I'd set for others to visualize what you wanted, keep it in front of you. And I think that's a good practice even today, to focus on your goals, because that gets you through all the rubbish that goes on in our lives from time to difficulties that go on in our world from time to time. So it was a real key moment of learning for me. My prize, apart from the recognition, was a helicopter flying lesson. And it didn't feel like a prize because I'm really, really terrible with heights. Sometimes it's all I can do to stand up on my own. But anyway, so all of a sudden you're grabbing the joystick and you're going 1,000 feet off the ground. And my goodness, I was breaking out in a sweat. But it was a reward for having this thing. So I valued it in that sense.
A person afraid of heights actually wanted to become a pilot captain at 7 years old.
That's a really good point. That is a really good point. Yeah.
Okay, I need to validate this one thing, because you were new into the selling back then. All right, you got what so-called coaching or mentoring by people been in there before you a few weeks or so, but you wrote down your goal, and then you found a picture of Florida as a visualization technique to help you to focus on the goals and the outcomes you want to be. How did you figure out those techniques as a newbie?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I can't remember how I can remember the book that I got that recommendation from, and it's called The Power of Visualization. It's by someone called Shad, S-H-A-D, Shad Helmstetter, and perhaps you can Google that afterwards, or if I can, I'll send you a link. Shad Helmstetter, and it talks about visualizing your goals to overcome adversity. And it was around personal self-development, which is a really big subject now, but wasn't a very well-known subject area before. I've always been an avid reader, so I'm always reading something. So that was the book that I got from, but I can't remember exactly how I came across the book, but that was where it started.
Beautiful, beautiful, and thanks for sharing. We have time for the other three. We have time for the other three special moments in your life. So let's move to the third one.
So I think the third one will be gosh, there are a few to choose from. Okay, they may not be in order. So okay, but I've been used to selling everything from sort of broadband that we call it today, to mobile phones, to phone systems, stuff like that. Stuff that would cost between £50 a month and maybe £10,000 a year, something like that. But fairly small scale sales, what we might call low cost but high volume. One of the other pinnacles, one of those 5 memorable moments, will be when I closed a deal many years later, a software outsourcing deal with a telecoms company. It was worth over $1.3 billion. $1 billion. So that would be a memorable moment for me. Now, in between those times, I had one closed, some larger deals, over £1 million. That was a key moment. £10 million, things like that, and had lots of training. Sales training had become a more mature kind of deliverable or service, if you like. There was much more learning going on about why people bought and what the skills that you needed to be good at selling. And I think, but I'd never sold anything remotely as large as something like that. But do you know what I figured is that the principles of selling are pretty much the same, whether you're selling that £50 a month broadband, gym membership, or whether it's a gigantic outsourcing contractors. The principles are the same. It's about identifying why your customer is in the market. What is the pain that they've got that you want to take away? What's the problem they need solving that's going to compel them to part with their hard-earned money, whether they're an individual consumer like you and me, or whether they're a big corporation? What problem are you solving for them? And in that respect, the principles of selling are pretty similar no matter what you're selling. It's true that in doing a big deal like that, there are more people involved, and so that's a complexity that you don't often have with smaller pieces of work. But by and large, the principles are the same. You have to keep everyone happy.
Yeah. Wow. Imagine a person selling £50 contract a month to a $1.3 billion contract. Is a huge gap in between, right? And like you say, there's some achievement in between, from 10 million to 20 million and stuff like that, to build you the confidence, right? So even that, the principle is the same, right? But the complexity, like you say, was different. and the bidding involves a lot of big competitors also. So I've been through that whole moments a lot also, for excitement and worry and stuff like that. So you seems very calm along the way. Teach us how you can keep your nerve, calm when you know that the result's gonna come in sometime soon for the bidding and stuff.
Such a tough question to ask, um, or answer rather. How do you keep calm? Well, sometimes you don't actually. So, all I think mastering the basics, and this is going to say, I know some of your readers and listeners are going to say, "What's a bit of magic? What can Keith tell us? What's the real magic?" Well, actually, I don't think there is magic as such. It's about mastering the basics. It's about doing something as basic as turning up for meetings on time.
Mm.
Um, respecting your customers' time. So turn up on time in the right frame of mind. Think about everything in terms of solving the customer's problems. And certainly for more complex sales, you cannot do them alone on your own. You are going to need to bring in your colleagues who have particular expertise in software outsourcing. We need lots of expertise. We need some data center specialists. We needed software specialists, all kinds of people, even accountants, because on a big outsourcing, you need lots and lots of different skills. Honestly, it'll make you could go dizzy just thinking about all the different skills that are required to bring something like that, like landing a plane. It's not just you, it's all that process and expertise that's supporting you. And so you don't have to be likable as a person, but you do have to find a way to get people to help you land that plane, so to speak. And that is, if there's any magic about how to do these kind of deals, it's about bringing people with you. And that's a leadership trait. It's about bringing people with you on that journey, persuasion, influencing. And it may not be people working with you on the deal. It might be persuading your line manager to support your deal versus one of your colleagues, because companies only have a finite set of resources, whether you've got 100,000 people in your company or 100 people in your company. If it's me and her that have got great deals on the go, but we've got limited resources, we have to pitch to our line manager to say, well, I deserve the resources because I've got a better chance of winning. So you have to, sometimes the internal sell, can be harder than the customer sell. But that's the way the world works. We have to work out. And that's why sales is it's an art and a craft and a science as well. It's a fascinating subject, and that's why I love being in sales so much.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you mentioned one thing is very, very, very important, which is like mastering the basics, right? While a lot of people are looking for some secret formulas to fast track to get the quicker result, but at the end, I think is everything has the basics, and as long as you master the basics, get the skills that needed, and then patient enough to work hard, and then one day it gets there. But in your journey, there's a lot of things that is really amazing, and I think that a lot of our audience want to know this one question that I want to ask. Okay, given that we have a basics mastery, all right, but then the industry differences also is a huge challenge. You're moving from the telecom onto the tech, onto the banking and financial services and stuff like that, educations. So each of that has a different, market, sales strategies and understanding. And no company will have the luxury for somebody to come and learn and learn and learn, but you need to deliver something, right? So each time that you move into the new industry, what did you do to master the industry as soon as you could?
That's a great question, because there is a way that you can learn really quickly. So one of the things that I teach as a sales trainer these days is that, well, first of all, you wouldn't believe how many people tell me, you can't possibly know about my business. It's very complicated. And all of that. So you could be a hedge fund manager, or you could be, doing stuff in outer space or whatever. I don't know if, I suspect many of your viewers and listeners will know the famous statement from Einstein, which said, if you can't explain what you do to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it well enough yourself. And I firmly believe that. So I promise you, I could sit down with any business person for an hour and ask them a set of questions, and I'll be able to make a cold call on their behalf to a prospective customer. I may not get the appointment, but I will be able to make a competent cold call by uncovering the benefits that that company does, whether it's a hedge fund or a space agency or everything in between. That is the gift of understanding sales, and there are plenty of people that are better at it than me. They're certainly better at promoting themselves as a go-to person, but that skill is what I want to help, shall we say, Gen Z or Gen Z acquire that skill, and that's the mission for me in chapter 2 of my sales career.
Wow. Yes, and I want to get into that chapter 2. Okay.
Yeah.
So what motivates you to start mentoring and coaching to build the next sales generations, though?
Well, I'm doing 2 things in my business at the moment. There's the typical for-profit, where I'm sales coaching and mentoring for money, because I've still got bills to pay and all of that, as have we all. But the other part of me, my business, is where I'm working with business schools and graduates, and sometimes senior schools as well, so the university age 16, 17-year-olds, promoting sales as a worthy profession, if you like. So my aspiration, if you like, I'm sure the same is true in Vietnam, but if you're a lawyer or an accountant, a so-called profession, you are regarded at a different status in society. Often. It shouldn't always be that. I believe every person is worth the same, but these are professions that are quite highly esteemed, maybe being a doctor as well. I think sales, I live from the day then that is perceived as a worthy profession at the same level as being a doctor or an accountant or a lawyer, because I believe that's the way the world works. Is nothing happens unless somebody sells something.
I truly believe that too. I also coming from the sales background, I really admire the profession. Okay, Keith. You've been through selling for 40 years. There's so much changing in the industry, in the professions, right? And something.
Okay,
yes,
carry on. But I just want to challenge you on that. Can I do that? Sorry to get you. I had this very conversation with an intern I had from the a business school that I work with. And actually, let me take you back to 1988 when we had to get a message the right message to the right person at the right time. Fast forward 40 years to 2024, it's about getting the right message to the right person at the right time. That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
How you get that message to that person, yes, of course, that's changed because whereas before you could only pick up the phone, write a letter, or knock on someone's door. That was the only three ways you could get in front of a customer. There are a million different ways to do that now, many different ways of doing that now. The art is, again, what are their communications preferences, and how do we therefore engage with them in a way which is meaningful
Yes.
to them.
Plus
Simple
what you say,
challenge.
plus what you say earlier also is to make sure that you understand the customer, what they want, and how you solve their problems, right? My question about this is like this: how in that 40 years we've seen a lot of changes like that, and given the fundamentals remains the same, how to get to the right customer at the right time by the right methodology, understanding the needs, right? What would be the skills that you see salespeople these days need to acquire now for them to succeed in their profession? So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. Excuse me. Interpersonal skills.
interpersonal skill.
So, what certainly is often known as soft skills. So, and I certainly don't want to devalue mathematics or physics or any of those things, or STEM subjects as they're often known. But soft skills like how to build rapport with someone else who may not even be in the same room, such as you and I right now, such as your viewers and listeners. How can we build rapport with that audience? How to build trust. So I might have rapport with you, but you may not trust me, and trust is built over time, just like rapport. Learn how to do those things. There's a great line in Gladiator. Do you know the movie Gladiator? Do you know that one?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Russian crown. Yes.
What? Yeah, that's the one. There is a bit kind of halfway through where I think it's Proximus, which is the Gladiator school owner, the guy with the beard. He says to Russell Crowe, "Win the crowd, and you will win your freedom."
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so that is about, again, do you remember I said you had to bring people with you on their journey? They have to want to support you. You cannot do things on your own. They have to support you. And that mix of skills, of rapport, trust, all of those things. And that's why I believe sales should be held up as a profession in the same regard as legal, accounting, doctors even. There you go. Did that answer your question? Sorry, I might
Yes,
have.
interpersonal skill. And when you said the interpersonal skill, it's very broad also. So I want to go to that specific of state management. Uh, in your own approach, how did you get the people to like you, to support you, to be with you, and to trust you over the course of working? Give us your best advice, though.
Well, if you assume that we go to work and the colleagues that we're working with in general have similar goals to you, we want the company to succeed, we want to win business, and so just as you need to understand your customers' world, and what problem you need to solve for them, you need to understand your colleagues' world as well. They're going to have perhaps a different set of KPIs or metrics laid down for them, such as I don't know. They want to do more business in a particular sector. That might be they want to. You have to align what you want with what they want, and find a way to mesh everything together so that you're all moving forward to solve the customer's problem. They spend money with you, we can pay the staff at the end of the month, and all those things. So you have to find a way to do that. How do you do that? Well, you get people to trust you. You don't have to get them to like you, but there needs to be respect there. The respect is, probably and trust probably go hand in hand, but that's all part of the same principle of bringing people with you on the journey. The right balance of carrot, if you like, and stick, as it's often referred to. Because you're there to do a job at the end of the day, and so if you can do it with a willing cohort of support, that's got to be a really good thing.
Beautiful, beautiful. I have two last questions for you for this conversation today. Although you still have another two more moments in your career and the book that we need to maybe bring you back to another conversation and talk about that. All right. I need to respect the timeline of the conversation. So my wife and I, the first question is, my wife and I, we are on the quest to help people to make their thinking improved. All right, because we believe that our ability to think these days has been diminishing. So every chance that we got to talk to experts, and you in your profession, you have to think a lot. Think for the team, internal, think for the external, things for so many factors, right? So I want to ask you, what is the secret that help you to expand your ability to think over the years now?
That's really easy to answer that. Reading.
All righty.
Reading. It sounds like a very glib, a very instant response, but honestly, that is at the heart of it. I never got a chance to go to university, and probably for the first 10, maybe 15 years of my career, between the age of 18 and 33, it was a drag on my career. But by the time I'd read loads and loads and loads of books like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, 100 years old, that book, but it's still as true today as it was 100 years ago. Chad Helmstetter, who I talked about earlier, in visualization. Books like that help you understand people and motivation and all of those things. That is single-handedly what's going to moved me to the point whereby I was confident to engage with people. Most people I work with these days have been to university, and they would never guess, unless they looked at my LinkedIn profile, they would never guess that I've never been to university, because I look like, sound like, think like they do.
Wow. You did one amazing thing, is not only reading, but you also take points from the books that you read and implement them. Yes, and then that's how you put the goals in writing. That's how you put the photo of Florida in front of you. So you have a clear cut of what you want to be, and so it is amazing. Thanks a lot. I have a last question.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So we know your past. You wanted to become a pilot. at 7 years old, and things move around, and until Bill move you into a sales role and having a phenomenal career with excellence for 40 years, and now you move into another stage of to help and mentoring and building a new group of excellent salesperson. Thanks for doing that. That is very beautiful. And I also coming from the sales background, so I believe it's a very noble profession. A lot of people don't know about that. It's our job to make sure that they know about that. All right.
Yeah, it is.
So the next question is about the future. So let's look into some near future, Keith. Is there anything exciting that you are working on you want to share with me and the audience so that we can celebrate with you in advance?
Wow. Yeah, here we go. I can't go into too much detail, but for obvious reasons. I got a phone call from. I got a LinkedIn message actually. A couple of again different way of getting a message to someone. A couple of months ago, from a guy, and he said, "You've." You've got some skills. I'd really like to talk to you about something, and I'm quite easy to get a first meeting with. If someone's got something interesting to talk about, I'll have a chat. You have a free half-hour chat with me, no problem. So anyway, this guy has inherited a forest of 2,000, just under 3,000 acres. Not to tell you whereabouts in the world it is, but it's hot.
Uh-huh.
And I can't remember. It's a pretty big expanse of land. He's inherited it. It's got, as most forests do, loads of trees, and it's got loads more in there as well. And he said, I have no idea how to optimize or how to get this forest working for the local economy. And so the future for me is how can I use all those 40 years of skills, context developing, visualization skills, how can I apply that to this project so that we can benefit the local workers in there that don't have a lot of work at the moment. How can I really make something of it? And I've never had that sentence, never heard it before. I've inherited a forest. That was not something I was expecting to talk about, but how can I help this person? Yes, I'd like to make some money from it as well, but it's a long-term project. But how can I do that? And that's really exciting. So that's going to involve everything that's going on in the world at the moment, from geopolitical conflict, because the world is a troubled place right now, as you know. It's going to involve interpersonal skills, persuading people to do things. It's going to involve data. There'll be an audit. What else is in the forest? Is there wildlife? It's a fantastic opportunity. So that I'm not sure if that's the kind of answer you were looking for, but that is what the next 1 to 5 years looks like for me in my sales world.
Wow, I'm happy for your next big thing. Not only that, making money, also you create jobs for the people in that communities, and the world needs a lot of people that can bring food home, bring happiness home, and stuff like that. So I wish that project turned out to be a successful one, expanding your capacity and the works that you're doing. And along the way, keep updating us for that. All right. I will definitely invite you back for another one, because I'm excited for your book, which is we haven't touched in this conversation, and the other two, big moments in your life, so that my audience will benefiting on that path of growing, that we need to realize when the big moments coming in,
Yeah.
appreciate that big moments and take advantage of that, otherwise it will pass by very, very short, very, very
Well,
quick. Yeah. And then Keith, thanks a lot for being so kind, so generous to spend your time with me to share your story. It's amazing journey that you are having. I'm proud of you, and I really look forward to seeing you in person one day soon. All right?
I look forward to it. Maybe in March if you're coming to town.
Yeah, maybe in March. Yes, 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 yeah. My friend, I need to let you go to do something else, and then for the day, and send our loves to your family, and I'll see you again sometime.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Wonderful day. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.